Sometimes I think that I focus too much on the shoe, and this shoe I think is like focused on your body. So if you've always thought there's only one type of HOKA experience and it wasn't the one that let you train for your race goals, could the Mach 5 be the one that changes your mind? So just a quick disclaimer before we get started. I do work for REI, but the views I'm expressing about the shoes. The views I'm sharing today are purely mine based on my experience in the shoes. So the HOKA Mach 5 comes in at about 8.2 ounces per shoe, or just over a pound for the pair. There's 29 millimeters of stack height in the heel and 24 millimeters of stack height in the toe, giving you a 5 millimeter drop throughout the shoe. The Mach 5 fits kind of squarely in between the Rincon line and the Carbon X line from HOKA. It's billed as a performance shoe that's really ready to be your race day shoe. You may notice if you're familiar with the Mach line in the past that the upper looks pretty similar, but feels slightly different. So there's a jacquard mesh this time around, which is kind of a slightly softer hand, at least in my opinion. It also helps cut the weight. The shoe's pretty lightweight already, so it's pretty cool that they were able to do some things that cut weight. One of them was changing the upper. So this is kind of interesting because you can actually see maybe through the camera there that there's some perforation there that gives you some of that breathability. Still gives you a little bit of that stretch, but it also just kind of feels soft, which is something that not a lot of uppers do really well. So it's kind of cool. Like I said, it just feels comfortable. If we look to the tongue, yeah, it's like a, HOKA tongue. Like, it just feels that way now. It's certainly not as short as like I felt on the Rincon, which is nice. It's got that same kind of finish as the Rincon for sure on the ends there, but it's got a little bit more padding, it feels like. The tongue has never felt like it's gotten in the way. I don't know why tongues are so short. The heel feels a little bit more accentuated to me. HOKA is saying that there's a better fit this time around. For me, when I put the shoe on, it just kind of felt familiar. And I certainly think it's because you have lots of options to dial in the fit throughout the laces. So you certainly can get the right fit for most people's foot in this shoe. I certainly found if I needed a different fit, because I tried like a really bulky sock when I was feeling particularly cold. Seems weird right now in the summer, but there was a day I was feeling cold. Or like, if you just wanted to have something slightly different on your run, maybe give yourself a little bit more room. This lacing system really helps you do that, so that was pretty nice. Moving down to the midsole, you'll see the call out here is the ProFly Plus foam on the top. This is a slightly newer foam that they're using for the more cushioned portion of the midsole. Also helps decrease that weight. If you kind of squeeze it a little bit there, you'll notice that it does feel kind of like that HOKA EVA that you're used to. So a little bit of that cushion that you would like. Strangely though, it doesn't feel like you're like, oh, I'm through one layer, then I get more, right? It just feels kind of like a uniform energy response for me anyway. So it doesn't feel super stiff. It just feels like kind of this continuous motion that gives you your energy back. In the back of the heel, you also have that cutout, which is kind of their calling card now for a lot of their shoes. So you'll kind of have that cool little, what I think of like as a shark thing, I don't know, but like you'll have that cool little feeling when you kind of go throughout the whole shoe. If you move down to the outsole, you'll see that mine's certainly a little bit dirty at this point, but you can see that there's not a lot of kind of frills on the outsole, right? There's not even, it's pretty exposed foam. There's not like some overlays of the rubber that you're used to seeing in a lot of shoes. So keeps the weight really lightweight, and it lets you kind of just move in the way that you want to move. You can see too that if these blue portions that are a little bit exposed, if you kind of push into them, it's just really soft foam. So it's kind of strange for a shoe that is a little bit more responsive in the HOKA line, that when you push through the outsole, you'll feel a little bit more of that cushion there. The first Mach model I was actually in was the previous model, so the Mach 4. It had been a while since I put on a pair of Mach shoes, so when I put on the Mach 5, it just kind of felt familiar, which is nice. It is that feeling where you're just like, okay, I know I'm gonna have like a shoe that is probably comfortable, but you put it on and I honestly forgot how much energy return that the shoe would actually give me. So, a shoe that I loved and I still love is the Rincon, and the Rincon is like a very comfortable shoe. It's a light, nimble shoe, but certainly gives you a lot of that cushion feeling. And this is just a shoe that like, you don't get that. When I think of HOKA, I think of like, okay, squishy, comfort, I would just want to go out there and not have to think about anything except being comfortable. And I put the shoe on, and it kind of like motivates me to move faster and move more nimbly, because you're not just like, you're like, oh, okay, you know? And so like you keep moving. It feels familiar, it feels exciting, but it doesn't feel like it's like, hey, move fast. And it doesn't feel like, hey, you don't have to move at all today. It's a little bit like, okay, you put the shoe on because you want to run. So, you know, you can go for a run and you can go for kind of a speedy run if you want to. So at this point, I've probably put about 45 miles on this shoe. I've taken them on a couple different runs. So certainly most of them have been road runs, but again, you'll see the bottom of my shoe certainly get them a little bit more dirty because I do take them on trail, sometimes at least like the park trails that are kind of around the neighborhood, and they've been super comfortable. The first run I actually put in this shoe was probably about 10 miles, which is not something that I do often when I put on a new pair of shoes, but the shoe just felt comfortable. And it was one of those things where, again, I just put the shoe on and be like, oh, I wonder what today will be like. And then that day felt pretty good, so I kept running. If we think about those two things that it falls in between, right? The Rincon is a kind of like a cushy, lightweight shoe. It's ready to be fast, but certainly gives you a lot of that cushion underfoot. And then the Carbon is a lightweight, fast shoe that's a lot more energy response, right? I mean, it's a carbon midsole, so it's really gonna give you that snappy feeling. This is like, what if we put kind of a snappier part of the midsole and a cushier part of the midsole, and we put it in the middle? It's like, here's the cushy fast shoe, here's the carbon fast shoe, and here's the one right in the middle. This is that shoe that really feels like it gives you the best of those both worlds. If you're looking for a compromise between the two, if you're looking for like, you know, some structure to kind of keep you upright on some of those longer distances, even your training runs, or perhaps you're going to be doing like a half marathon or a marathon distance, and you know that when your feet get tired, you need a little bit more of that structure. This shoe does feel like a good race day shoe. I think this honestly might be a shoe that I would wear for a race distance like that. So the Mach 5, even though HOKA doesn't call it a daily trainer, for me, I kind of use it a little bit more like a daily trainer. When I think of like all the shoes that are in my shoe closet, it's crazy, I have a shoe closet. Yeah, all the shoes that are in my shoe closet, I look at a shoe and like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing today, so I'll wear this shoe. Or I'm gonna try to go faster, or I'm really tired after work, so I want a shoe that's really cushioned. This shoe I could just take no matter what. My motivation can dictate what type of run I do, how fast I really wanna push the pace in there. There's not something in the shoe that's preventing me from doing it. It's kind of up to me at this point. It's like, it's all on you. Like if you feel good and you want to feel fast, put the shoe on and go for that. If you want to do like a slower run and you kind of want to take your time, you can certainly focus on that. And the shoe's not going to get in the way of either of those. I will say for folks that are looking for durability, again, there's like no extra rubber on the bottom of the outsole. And you do have some of that exposed like EVA even. So there's probably not going to last like as long as some of the other shoes that have a little bit more structure to the outsole. But if you're not super concerned with that, I think this shoe is going to work out great for folks that are looking to really like hit training or race goals. I think the Mach 5s are great for runners that are looking for a shoe that can kind of do it all. I think of this shoe as a shoe that I'll reach for a lot of my daily training runs. For runners that are looking to kind of like look at training specifically, I think sometimes we toss around the term daily trainer as just like an everyday shoe. And if you want an everyday shoe, sometimes you want like an everyday cushioned shoe, or sometimes you want an everyday like structured shoe. But I think if you want a daily trainer to train, and you have goals in mind, I actually think this shoe is going to be great for a lot of folks. So that's my experience with the Mach 5. I'm really stoked on it. I'm really stoked to put a lot more miles on it, but I'd love to hear from you all. What's your favorite part of the shoe? Do you really notice that like difference in the mesh up here? Do you dig this little like shark thing in the back? Like leave a comment below. I'd love to read it. Are you a HOKA fan at home? That's been looking
like,
yeah.
Do you find yourself wondering
yeah.
if there's a perfect shoe?
With every shoe, you get another shoe.